Hello and welcome. In this episode, we'll talk about gear, more specifically, gear abilities. All gear have gear abilities, and they'll help you whether you know about them or not, but you'll be able to utilize them more effectively if you understand how to obtain certain abilities. And in the next episode, we'll talk about those abilities' effects. But before we can talk about the effects and the strategies and various uses for abilities, I have to talk about the different types of abilities. The most common type, is the common ability. Here we can see a list of all the abilities in the group, but on the other hand there are also abilities which are specific to one kind of gear, that being headgear, clothes, or shoes. Here are the headgear exclusive, shirt exclusive, and shoe exclusive abilities. These limited abilities also are absolute abilities, meaning that they do not have an accumulating effect, but there can only be one of them, and it is either active or not. Now each specific piece of gear will have a default ability that when you go to the shop, it will have. There are, however, various methods of getting alternate abilities. First, I want to mention the Salmon Run gear, which is Salmon Run exclusive gear, and you only get by, you guessed it, playing Salmon Run. It comes with a random ability. But also, with gear that's available in the shops, not all players may know this, since you have to get a smart device and you have to download an app and use the shop in the app, but you can get alternate abilities on all the gear in the game, well, for the most part. It's really easy and it's instant, but it will cost you more than it would just buying from the shop with the default ability. Now, a little secret, well, it's not a secret because it was announced in an update, but you can actually swap back by going to the shop, and if you see a gear that you bought through Splatoon, you can actually swap it back to get the default ability. Alright, so this is the fun part. Now we add in sub-abilities to the equation. As you can see, each piece of gear has a big circle and a widow circle. In fact, you can have 1, 2, or 3 widow circles. These circles are actually slots to put sub-abilities, the small ones that is. And the big circle, of course, is for your main ability. So what's the deal? Why doesn't all my gear have sub-abilities? Well, to unlock sub-abilities, which you do randomly, you earn enough points in online battles. So to give a brief explanation of which mode you might want to play, you get points most reliably by playing the regular battles, but you can get the most all at once if you play ranked battles. Or there's my favorite option, which is to not care and just play whatever you want. One, 2, 3. Oh, hey, I was just counting stars. Because that's what we're going to talk about next, is gear with 1, 2, and 3 stars, and what the difference is. Well, the most obvious is that you will pay significantly more arms and legs to get 3-star gear than 1-star gear. And of course, 2-star gear is right between. Also, yes, you will have to level up far enough on the exact levels, but around level 10 and level 20 to unlock the 2-star and 3-star gears to be available in the shops. Although, there are alternate methods of getting 3-star gear, finishing the single player, and playing Salmon Run. And then of course, there's always the option of hacking them into the game, and by that I mean, well, just ordering through Splatoon, because it kind of feels like hacking. The most obvious benefit to getting 2-star and 3-star gear is that they have more slots. But before you just throw out all your 1-star gear, let's talk about some redeeming qualities. It's about time that you meet the Super Sea Snail. No one knows where they really come from, but you're given them for participating in Splatfest. And of course, the longer you play, the more you level up, and the higher level you get, the more Super Sea Snails you get. Pretty straightforward. Unless, of course, you're a nerd and you like to look at graphs of exact numbers of sea snails for each level. You can also get Super Sea Snails every time you level up past level 30. I'm sure now that you have the scoop on how to get the Super Sea Snails, you're wondering,
what does a
sea snail
actually do?
Super Sea Snails have 2 uses. One of them is adding slots to gear that don't already have 3 slots. And the second use is re-rolling abilities once you've filled all 3 slots. Basically, sucky ability that you don't want goes out, and probably another ability you don't want goes in. You can get most abilities as sub-abilities, except for the gear type specific. Not all these sub-abilities are created equal though, or at least represented equally. By that, I am referring to different brands of clothing. With each clothing brand, you'll get a high chance of getting a certain ability, as well as a low chance of getting another ability. This can be very useful to know if you're trying to get certain abilities on certain gear. You may think that the game just hates you, but in fact, it probably does. If you go to Krusty Sean's and go to his drink menu, there you can view all the different brands and their corresponding likely sub-ability. Oh right, the drinks. When you purchase a drink, which you have to do with drink tickets, which you can get from playing Salmon Run, the drink will increase the amount of points that you earn toward unlocking gear sub-abilities, and slightly increase your chance of getting whichever ability is defective. And this effect does appear to stack with the brand's effects. And once you have your gear all full up with sub-abilities, probably ones you don't want, then you have a couple options. You can re-roll it with a Super Sea Snail, or you can scrub it. Now once you scrub it, we'll have to talk about the next item, the ability chunks that wash out when you scrub your gear. Additionally, you can obtain ability chunks by playing Salmon Run. And also within Salmon Run, there's a secondary way to get ability chunks. When you earn gear that you already have, you can trade it in for money, or you can trade it for chunks. Now ability chunks aren't there just to look cool, but are actually very useful. Once you collect about 10 to 30 chunks, you can use them to place specific abilities in each slot of your gear. The more of that sub-ability that you have on your piece of gear, the more expensive it will be. First, it will cost 10, and if there's one of that ability, it'll cost 20, and if it's the third of its type, it'll cost 30 chunks. Something simple, but seems like too many people don't know it. You don't have to scrub your gear before you use your chunks. You can use chunks on full slots. It will simply displace whatever ability was previously in there and give it to you as a chunk. Well, boys, girls, and watermelons, that's about all for this episode. Tune in next time to learn all about the abilities' effects and epic strategies. Or at the very least, regular strategies.